try to maybe bring it next
I
time.
wanna see it.
So,
We were gonna put.
it was fun.
We were gonna put snacks out today, but Brian's not here, so.
Yeah, but we got a basket of snacks for it. Dang it.
That's really funny to me, I'm
We
sure.
thought it was funny too, so.
And did you power that up?
Oh, of course, I'm sorry.
Let's see, I don't know if I really have a lead-in for today.
It's all right, I got lots of questions.
Yeah, we can save more time for questions, right? Everybody ready?
Not quite yet, sorry, gotta turn on.
Do you have anything you want
No.
to talk about?
Keep them busy.
You want to talk about Idaho National Land?
But what?
Idaho National Land?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah. He asked me that right as I put a mint in my mouth. No, we were really excited. Today we had Idaho National Labs come down. We've been working on that for a while. We've been trying to partner with them. Those of you who don't know, that's our national lab that's doing a lot in nuclear, among other energy sources. And the state of Utah has been partnering with them the last 2 years, building relationships. The University of Utah created a kind of an MOU with them. And now we're actually taking it to a bigger level. And they're looking at partnering with what we're doing down at San Rafael, which is, you know, the state's really leaning in on nuclear. And working with all of our universities on workforce initiatives. But they were here today and talking about some legislation we're working on with the Energy Board and ways that we can really partner better with them, and looking at how we can also work with Idaho and Wyoming on our energy generation.
Yeah, Idaho National Labs is one of the leaders, if not the leader, in nuclear energy development and technology. And they're really excited for some of the opportunities here in Utah. And so we're looking forward to working together and partnering with them on ways we can help be an energy leader in this space with nuclear energy here in the state of Utah.
Is your resolution that calls for the compact between
Yes,
Idaho,
partnerships,
Wyoming?
yeah.
So is this basically Rocky Mountain Power related?
No, it's more that we've had a lot of conversations with Idaho and Wyoming when we've gone to different conferences and events, and we share so many similar goals and objectives and kind of the all of the above strategy. And we've just talked about how can we do more to partner on those efforts. So that's really what was the impetus behind
Yeah.
it. But it could have a tie into Rocky Mountain, I guess.
Yeah, that's not really the genesis of that, but it could, look, we're better as a team, right? So if Utah's alone, we're okay, we're good, but we bring two other states and have 3 states that all surround each other, have similar interest, and our goals are aligned. There's a lot of neat things that could happen with that synergy.
Is it just as long as those other states aren't Washington, Oregon, and California?
Well, I think it's fair to say that those states have different policies, objectives than what the state of Utah has, and that's fine. They can go down those roads. We would like to look and be a leader in nuclear energy for not just here in Utah, but literally for around the world. And we see that as a huge opportunity for especially some of our rural areas in Utah. You look at the opportunities there. Representative Moss has really worked hard on the San Rafael Energy Center in Emory County, and we're excited for that. So.
I wanted to ask, there is a rally, it may get loud because there's drums down there that are gonna fire up, calling for the House to hear the Indian Child Welfare Act bill run by Representative Romero. So far, it hasn't been made out of rules. Why is it not being heard?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that issue other than I know the federal government resolved that issue from our perspective. We view it as more of a duplicative process. Not to say that it may not get heard, but as we've had initial discussions about it, it's something that the federal government addressed, I think, last year. We want to see how that works out and go from there.
So Representative Tyler Clancy's bills and resolutions on homelessness have either passed the House unanimously or passed the committee unanimously, and then will come before the House for a floor vote soon. And these bills explicitly try and break from a housing first or housing only approach that the state had pioneered from 2005 to maybe 2015 era. Do you think it's fair to say that, we're officially turning a chapter on state homelessness policy, and that with this kind of package of bills, we're saying that might have been a failed experiment, we're trying something different.
Well, I would say that, you know, it's clear what we've been doing isn't working the way we had hoped it would. I think you could point to some success stories, certainly, but I think there's other ways to do it better. Representative Clancy has been leading out on this effort, and we really appreciate that. Last year, his bill that kind of tries to hold people accountable, it doesn't kind of, it does, it holds people accountable, and we very much appreciate that. You know, if you're going to get that much public funds or state resources, we want to make sure that it's actually working. And so he let out on that last year, and we're working together. I think this is as a collaborative approach that we're taking with Salt Lake City, with Salt Lake County, and trying to find what's best overall and how to address homelessness. We very much appreciate Mayor Mendenhall's leadership in this area. Salt Lake County has moved so far as well, and we're very, very, very appreciative of that collaborative effort where we have the state coming together, we have the city coming together to truly address the homelessness issue as well as public safety in our capital city and capital county with Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. And so I feel like we're moving in a positive direction, and there's more to be done, and you know, I think we'll continue to address that, and hopefully the approach Representative Clancy's taking ends up better for the citizens of the state, and certainly Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County.
Do you have thoughts on Brian Redd being selected as police chief for
Boy,
Salt Lake City?
that is the most bittersweet pill I've ever swallowed in my life. It kind of took us off guard. Look, corrections had quite a few issues. We all know, we saw some of the audits and different things inside of corrections, and Brian Redd came in, and corrections is running better today than it's ran in decades. And Brian has done a really, really good and amazing job, and my hat's off to him. He leaves some big shoes to fill. We're a little bit nervous about that, quite honestly, not sure you know, what the governor's plan is yet to fill that. You know, we've got a lot of capable people, I'm sure, inside of corrections that can step up and fill those shoes. But we're excited for Brian's leadership inside the Salt Lake City Police Department. And so as that news broke today, it was, like I said, it was probably the biggest bittersweet pill I've ever had to swallow.
So she didn't run the name past you
No.
ahead of time or anything like that?
No, didn't know about it, so.
Representative Lee had a bill that would ban pride flags in schools and on government property that was passed through committee last week. Do you think that will have legs on the full house floor?
Yeah, I think so. Look, we want kids in the classrooms to be focused on education. We want education to be focused on educating our students. Regardless of a political flag, this isn't, to me, not about pride flags, it's not about MAGA flags, it's not about don't tread on me flags. It's let's just focus on educating our kids and our students, and let's keep it at that.
But this
That bill would-
expands it, yeah.
Yeah, apply to all government property, so
I didn't find out about that until after, so I don't.
do you think the bill will get stubbed on the House floor to parse it down to the schools again, or?
You know, I have no idea. I have not,
Sure, yeah.
I have not talked to anybody about it. I found out about it after it had passed committee, and so I don't know what will happen on that.
What's up with the election bill?
Yeah, that's a good one, right?
Why isn't it moving? What's going on?
Well, that's what happens, you know, when we get talking, we're talking. We like to say we're talking. We're having really good discussions on that. I really appreciate, you know, everybody coming together. You know, I recognize that what we thought and had as the perfect idea, others feel may not be is the perfect idea. And so the number one goal as the legislature, as we move down this pathway, is to make our elections more secure. We like to lead the nation on so many fronts, and so for us to be in the bottom third when it comes to election security is concerning to us. And so we're having really good discussions right now with our county clerks, with the Senate, to try to do all we can to move higher up on that list and have more secure elections. So we're not ready to discuss what those details are yet, because I would not say we've landed on anything, but we're happy that we're at least having the conversations.
You're running out of time though, there's only a couple weeks left, and if it needs to go all the way through the Senate, when do you hope to act on this bill?
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We will probably take action on it, I would say, first of next week sometime. But we'll see what happens. We got some discussions and some things that still need to happen, and we'll see. Like I said, I really like, you guys all know that, original HB 300. But when you realize that it doesn't, isn't going to pass the Senate, it's time to sit down and figure out a pathway forward that helps makes our elections more secure than what it is. And I've been very, very grateful for their willingness to engage in that process, as well as our county clerks. So we're having really good discussions.
Representative Moss, I wanted to ask about your judicial
Yeah.
Supreme Court bill. Wonder when we might see that, and if you have thoughts on the other reform bills that are working their way through the House and Senate.
Yeah, the Supreme Court bill, it's been a discussion we've had for a little while. It came up again this year, around how do we, we've grown as a state, right? We've grown a lot. We started looking around at other states and how many of them have a smaller Supreme Court like us, 5. Very few of our size are at that level. In fact, 2 of our states, Arizona and Georgia, both had added in the last couple of years, increased their size. And so looking at size of workload, size of the state, maybe improving even in efficiencies with caseloads. So so we are definitely looking at that right now.
And I'll just add, as the issues before the Supreme Court become more complex, I think having more eyes on that is a good thing. And it's a little late in the process but it's something that we want to continue discussing.
Is that an issue for next year then?
It might be, we'll see once it gets drafted. It's in that process of getting drafted right now. Once that comes out, it's getting a little late in the process, and we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful as we move forward, and that's a change, right? And so we think it's good to have that conversation, to start that conversation now, and we'll see where it happens. We'll see what happens with it.
And it's opened up a lot of discussion already.
Yeah,
So it's been helpful to get is this something we really should consider?
Are you looking to add 2 members to the Supreme Court? Or
I
what? Do you
don't
have
think
a
we've settled
number?
on a number. We've looked at a number of states. Some have gone to 7, some have gone to 9. So
Oh,
we're
shit.
still thinking through that.
9 or 7.
Kind of on that topic, the Utah State Bar has come out with a long list of bills this week dealing with the judiciary that it says it opposes. I talked to them yesterday. It says they said it appears that the legislature is sort of on a revenge streak as it relates to the courts, and all these bills could amount to undermining the judicial branch of government, upsetting the balance of powers. What are your thoughts on that sentiment?
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly disagree when it comes to the revenge stuff. I think as we see issues and problems arise, similar to what we saw with COVID during the emergency situation with the executive branch, the legislature has granted authorities and has rules and sets the policy, and so it's fully within the legislature's purview to pull some of that back at times, or even increase it at times, and we do both, and that's the job of the legislature. And so we would hope to work collaboratively through that process with the bar and others, but we recognize that we may have differences of opinions, but again, I think putting the decision back into those that are elected versus those who are appointed, I think is better. Again, I'm a huge fan of democracy and keeping the power vested within those that are elected by the people.
Would anything make you pause about adding to the Supreme Court? What are the cons, I guess?
Yeah, I actually like the idea personally. So again, I think as these issues become more complex, I think it's good. And you look at the House passes better bills than the Senate does, there's more of us. We got more eyes on it.
He didn't laugh.
I also wanted to ask about Lisenby's, I think it's HB 512, it would deal with, creating a new legislative committee to add a recommendation
Yeah.
on the ballot, for judicial retention. Speaker, you
Yeah.
talked about need for more transparency.
Yeah.
But the bar opposes that one is especially troubling.
Yeah, I don't understand why, because I'll tell you the number one question I get, I mean, my phone, when ballots go out, any legislator, you can ask, their phone blows up, hey, talk to us about. The number one thing I hear is, I don't have any more information on the judges, tell us about the judges, tell us about the judges. Nobody knows about the judges. And so, this doesn't, all it does is creates a process that actually provides more information to to the voters to make a decision. And it also creates a process in which the voters can come up and talk about some of their experiences with the judges, right? Have them through that committee hearing. I think that's a good thing. So if you're a judge, I can understand why you may not want that additional level of scrutiny. But I think giving voters more information and letting the people make the decision is a good thing, especially number one thing that you hear is, tell us about the judges, we don't know how to vote on the judges.
That's a big
One
lift for the
more?
legislature. Like, are you guys ready to take that on, and what would that look like?
Well, yeah, I think we're ready to take it on. I mean, we're having that discussion and we'll see what it looks like. I mean, it's hard to say, you know, as the bill moves through the process, other than, we're super supportive of it. And we look forward to creating a process that gives more information to the voters to make a decision and give them the opportunity, because one of the things I've heard about a couple judges in Salt Lake County, I'm not gonna get into who, but there's a lot of frustration with a couple of them, that people would like to have that moment to come and say, hey, this is my experience with this judge. Now, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not, but at least it provides our citizens that opportunity to voice some of their concerns, because right now they currently don't have that.
But it sounds like the concerns is the way this bill is written alongside other bills, that there's this opportunity to inject too much politics in the judicial retention process.
Well, it's a voting process. I mean, I think people ought to be judged around what their decisions are.
But, and also
So-
install judges that would feel, beholden to the legislature in order to keep their post.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's beholden to the people, because the people make that decision on the ballot. This is just as a way to provide information to the people again. And again, give them an opportunity to come up and talk about their experiences that they've experienced with particular judges. It's an open committee hearing that will be taking public comment. That's good. So,
Do you guys think that Utah needs its own version of Doge?
we'll see what happens, but you look at it, we're unique. I think we already have our own version of Doge, right? You watch that process play out during our budget cycle. We have a list of recommendations of cuts. We have 104 members of Doge, and each member is unique to Utah, right? Every legislator serves on an appropriation committee, and every legislator can do a deep dive into the process and into how those dollars are spent. So we do a pretty good job already. Now, I'm all for putting more transparency on the process of doing a deeper dive into how state dollars are spent. And so I think, as we talk and we look to move forward, we will certainly be having those discussions around, how can we do a deeper dive into the budget and how our money's being spent. We have a good group of new lawmakers that's always one of their top concerns, is how is their taxpayer dollars being spent. And so we're going through that process right now, and we look forward to having those continued discussions. We'll see what it looks like, but I'm open to putting a little more information. And one thing too that I think is unique, you guys see us use our legislative auditors on a regular basis, right? And they help us through that. And certainly, we have our state auditor as well. So, we don't have the problems that the federal government has, nowhere near. But it's because we already do things better. But I think additional scrutiny is always a good thing, so.
Maybe just to add, we do every interim go through a accountable-based budget process.
Yeah.
But we actually are going through, take 20% a year for 5 years and really do deep dives. Where we're going through and scrutinize things a lot more, and we do that intentionally so that over a 5-year period, we're going back through the entire base budget for each of those sub-appropriations.
Representative Monis is a new legislator, ran that bill, I'll never forget it. Took a couple years to get passed, but he worked hard and got that bill passed. And so every 5 year, or 20% every year. So once every 5 years, the whole budget gets deep dive.
Alright, we gotta
Thank
wrap
you.
up.
One more?
Obviously, we're coming to the final days of the session. You mentioned HB 300 is a priority. What else is a priority for you in the final days?
Getting all of our House members' bills past the Senate.
All of them?
Everyone?
That's impossible.
We have time for that?
As many as possible, how's that?
Any particular ones that are top of mind that you don't wanna push down the road?
There's a lot of them. I don't know that I would specifically say in particular, we're still looking at tax cuts. That's a big one that we want to continue to move forward. We don't have a lot of money this year, but we actually think that's a good thing. Again, kind of going back to, just makes us put a little more pressure on maybe some additional budget cuts as we move through the process to make that happen in reality. But I'll tell you, one of the top things I hear from my constituents, and we all hear from our constituents, is inflation, cost of living here in the state of Utah. So we realize that this package that's being talked about, it doesn't add up to a whole lot on its own. But if you add what we've done together over the last 5 years and add this onto it, it's a significant amount to Utah families, and that's important to us. So that's one that we keep doing. Thank you guys. Good questions, appreciate it.